Musk needs to come in and he needs to fire everyone. I mean everyone.
You're fired!
The simple fact is that Twitter, as it was operated, was a leftist organ. And you can see that by the freakout that Musk's takeover is now engendering in the left. It is incredible to watch the left lose its absolute mind. Because here's the thing. Musk has not announced that he is going to be making any massive changes to Twitter. The user experience is going to be very similar. All he has said thus far is that he is going to be in favor of more free speech on the platform. He tweeted, quote, "Free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy. Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated. I also want to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features, making the algorithms open source to increase trust, defeating the spam bots, and authenticating all humans. Twitter has tremendous potential. I look forward to working with the company and the community of users to unlock it." Now that sounds pretty above board, right? He's saying that he wants to make the algorithms open source so you can actually see how the algorithms work. He's saying that he wants more free speech on the platform. That's it. More transparency and more free speech. And the left is freaking out, which shows you two things. One, the left really hates transparency and they really hate free speech, especially on these social media platforms. And this has really been true since 2016. I have been making this point for years on end, that up until 2016, social media was seen as an unmitigated blessing for the left. The left loved social media. After all, Barack Obama had effectively manipulated Facebook in 2012 in ingenious ways to achieve his own reelection. Then Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016, and social media became the enemy to the left. Social media had to be brought to heel. Social media had been taken over by Russian spam bots and evil right-wingers, and therefore, we needed governmental oversight. You saw people like Kara Swisher constantly complaining at the New York Times that there just wasn't enough oversight. There just wasn't enough censorship at places like Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. You saw folks over at CNBC and MSNBC complaining routinely about how terrible it was that social media had allowed too many people to speak freely. You saw Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, openly say to Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook that unless you crack down on content, we will find a way to punish you. The left has hated free speech on these platforms for years, specifically because that free speech allowed alternative viewpoints to get out there. And they successfully cudgeled places like Twitter and Facebook into doing their bidding, which is why at the end of the 2020 election, 1 month before the 2020 election, you saw the Hunter Biden story completely shut down on social media in coordinated fashion. It's why you saw all of these social media outlets begin to coordinate in who they would ban. And they would wait until one day and then just Alex Jones was gone. Now, I think Alex Jones is terrible. That doesn't mean he ought to be banned from social media. I think Milo Yiannopoulos is awful. I don't think he ought to be banned from social media. All of these outlets would simply, all at once, decide that they wanted these people gone, and then they would, in collusive fashion, just ban them. And that was the end of them. You saw them all do this to Donald Trump in the aftermath of January 6th, for the most prominent example. And this is something that the left loved. And then they lied about it. The left would say, you know, we're not anti-free speech. We're not anti-transparency. We just don't want any free speech or transparency. Well, all Elon Musk has said in taking over Twitter is that he wants more free speech and more transparency. And he tweeted out, "I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter because that is what free speech means." People on the left lost their ever-loving minds. They've lost their minds. Why? Because they always knew, their assumption always was, Twitter was on their side. Twitter was their outlet. Twitter was their friend. The same thing with Facebook. The same thing with YouTube. And so the minute that somebody threatens that monopoly, they freak out. The minute somebody says, listen, I'd like more openness and more transparency, they lose their minds, which shows you, again, they were lying the whole time. They kept saying to all of us on the right, oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. Twitter is the town square. You know, you're complaining about the way that they are manipulating information or strangling off information or bottlenecking things or shadow banning people. You keep saying this sort of stuff, but it's all in your head. It's not real. Okay, well, if it's not real, then why are you freaking out now that Elon Musk has threatened to open up the process a little bit? So all of this has raised the question as to what exactly Elon Musk is going to do once he takes over. By the way, Twitter shares did rise almost 6% on Monday to close at $51.70 each. The stock, according to the Wall Street Journal, has been an anemic performer in an era of huge returns for technology companies. Its shares jumped on their first day of trading in 2013 to close at $44.90, within $1 of where they were more than 8 years later when Mr. Musk made his approach. We'll get to more on all of this in just 1 second. First, big tech. Right, Elon Musk is taking over part of it, and that's nice. But You don't trust big tech, do you? When you shouldn't, because surveillance is only increasing. Big tech is watching what you do. Sometimes they're working with the government to watch what you do. To help protect your data from being tracked, I urge you to do what I do. Get ExpressVPN. It doesn't matter where you live. Every time you search for something online, watch a video, or click a link, it all gets tracked by 3-letter agencies, by big tech, or both. Anytime they want, they can match your activity to your true identity using your device's unique IP address. When I turn on ExpressVPN, they can't see my IP address at all. My identity is anonymized by a secure VPN server. Plus, ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of my internet data for protection from any eavesdroppers or cybercriminals. The best part, ExpressVPN makes it really easy. Got even my mom using it. Just take out your phone, you open up the ExpressVPN app, and then it says not connected. See that? It's all red, sad. Then you hit the button. And behold, you're connected, and now you're protected. So stop handing over your data to the government and big tech companies. Defend your rights with the same VPN I use. Visit expressvpn.com/Ben Shapiro Show to get 3 extra months for free, or click the link in my description below. What exactly is Elon Musk committing to do? Well, as I've said, he hasn't actually committed to do much at all at this point, other than more free speech and more transparency. There's some speculation as to what he is going to do. According to the Wall Street Journal, Musk wants to make substantial changes to Twitter. He reiterated his push to soften Twitter's stance on content moderation. He also promised new features like making algorithms open source. He indicated through regulatory filings, tweets, and interviews at a TED conference how he thinks the company ought to run and what he would do if he were to successfully acquire the social media site. Here's a list of what he said. He said he would soften its stance on content moderation. He is the self-described free speech absolutist. He said that instead of just taking down tweets or permanently banning users, timeouts are better. He says the platform should follow the laws of the countries in which it provides services. He would create an edit feature for tweets, which presumably would allow you to see the original version of the tweet and then also the edited tweet. He wants to take the company private because he says that there is no way to make the changes he wants without taking it private. He wants to give users who pay for Twitter Blue authentication check marks. So maybe the idea here is that in order to monetize the service, to get your account authenticated, you pay for that pleasure. He wants to rely less on advertising. He says Twitter should shift toward a business model that relies more on subscriptions, which again makes some sense. He wants to stop spam and scam bots and allow for longer tweets as well. So maybe move toward a more Substacky type model so you can actually subscribe and then you can put out longer tweet threads. Okay, all of that is fine. Here is what Elon Musk actually should do. Okay, there are 4 things in particular that Elon Musk really needs to do. Thing number 1, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So you keep hearing from the left after January 6th, we need a Truth and Reconciliation, like South Africa, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to see who was a supporter of Donald Trump. Okay, what we need in order to restore trust in Twitter is we need to see all the old algorithmic changes and how exactly they impacted user experience. So we need to see who was shadow banned. We need to see which keywords allowed for people to be banned. We need to see the standards that were applied. We need the books opened, and we need to see the history of what exactly happened with Twitter. How was the decision made to get rid of the Hunter Biden story? How was the decision made to get rid of the Babylon Bee? How was the decision made to shadow ban particular accounts or quash the reach of particular accounts? How did that happen? So we need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission over at Twitter. That is step number 1. Step number 2, we do need transparency in the algorithmic selection process. So Musk has already committed to this. He says that he wants an open source algorithm, meaning that we can all see how content is being elevated or how content is being suppressed. That is a very good thing, and that promise needs to be fulfilled. Because how are you going to trust the process if you can't actually see the process at work? If Musk does that, there'll be a major change, because that does establish credibility. That does mean, you don't like how it's being run? Well, at least you can see how it's being run. Right now, the lack of transparency in Twitter is what has led to the massive distrust. Because your tweet goes down or you're suspended and you have no idea. There's no feedback mechanism. You have no idea what you did wrong. You have to wait for like a week for some Twitter low-level employee doing scut work to get back to you. Making the algorithmic process more open and transparent at least allows us to know why these things are happening, whether it's a glitch or whether it's a problem or whether it's an actual concerted attempt to shut down particular points of view. There need to be clear rules of the road. So Twitter has had very, very vague rules of the road. This is also true of Facebook and YouTube. Basically, these rules of the road have allowed for bans on anything that Twitter doesn't like. And so you've seen this very inconsistent punishing of things like quote unquote dead naming, right? This is why the Babylon Bee got banned, because the Babylon Bee made the tremendous mistake of saying that a man is not a woman and a woman is not a man. And so the Babylon Bee had its account suspended despite the fact that it is a satire site. So we need clear rules of the road. And what would that mean? That mean no violent threats, no intimidation, no pornography. There's some pretty clear rules of the road, and then everything else goes. And I think that Musk is likely to re-implement something like that. And then finally, and this is the most important thing, Musk needs to come in and he needs to fire everyone. I mean everyone. And Twitter has hundreds, if not thousands, of employees. There have been studies done of the donations, the political donations of the people working at Twitter. 98.7% of all donations from the people working at Twitter went to Democrats in the last election cycle. 98.7%. So it doesn't matter what rules Elon Musk sets top down if the so-called Twitter deep state is still implementing its favored policies. Because this is the thing. Right? Donald Trump found this out when he was president. You can name the policy top down, but if everybody at the State Department hates your guts, they're just going to undermine your policy. You can name the policy top down, but if everybody at the FBI decides to spend the next 4 years ginning up nonsense about Russian conspiracy theories, you can't get much done. When Musk takes over the company, he should do what every boss at every company does, and he should review the employee list and figure out who is good and who is bad, not purely on the basis of politics, but on the basis of performance. And the good news is many of these employees are already sounding off on Elon Musk, and they've given him good excuse to fire them. We're in a battle for the culture and for our values. Like and subscribe to help keep our videos on the front line of the fight and top of your feed.